Systems Atlanta, as I said, Joe and I, we came from the Air Force many years ago. We retired out of it. And what brought us to this company is that in the Air Force, we actually were using the product. So we're going to go through, for those of you that were at the event a month ago, I took about an hour briefing and put it into about 4 minutes, I think is what we had. So I'll be able to talk slower this time. We're retired air traffic controllers, so we're used to talking to the fast way. So proper military, I got to tell you what I'm going to tell you, we're going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you what I just told you. So we're going to go through that. This is what we're going to run through today. Give an introduction of ourselves and a little bit of our company. And then we're going to get into the IDS C2 program and exactly what that can do for you all. So as I said, I'm Darren Ludke, CEO of the company, Joe Kirk, Director of Business Development. And we've got plethora of experience, I guess, as we said, with the military, about 50 plus years. Our company has been around since 1976. We're located in Kennesaw, Georgia. Out of those 42 years, 33 of it has been spent with air traffic control, aviation. The last 13 years or so, we've went out into ARF, into security forces, into emergency operations centers, and moved the product for instant communication amongst everywhere. We have been providing solutions for the government for many years within the FAA, and for those that are going to fly Friday, this may scare you a little bit. IDS-4, that is our product. It's a DOS-based product. The FAA still uses it in about 40% of their facilities. So some may be too young to even know what DOS was, but there's we actually have floppy disk drives that, if anybody used those, that we're still using in the FAA. They progressed into ACE IDS, which was our first program that used Windows. And IDS-4, the best way that we explained it was pre-Windows, before Microsoft even invented it. And we're going to show you a lot of screen captures of what we've got out there for IDS-2, and you'll understand a little bit better what that meant. So we jumped into IDS-5. That is our core product, and it swings down the arrow is the IDS-C2. IDS-5 is the core brain of IDS-C2, C2 standing for Command and Control. AFAS and AAAS. I think I've seen a couple Army gentlemen. So AAAS is a program that's actually in the Army. It's fielded into all air traffic control and all airfield management locations so far. AFAS is a program name within the Air Force, and we're also worldwide in all the air traffic facilities and the airfield management. These are certified systems. Joe's going to talk about that a little bit more. And we're looking at where does that growth go. So you think about all that information that an air traffic controller, the control tower has, and airfield management. It's all contained within either AFAS or AAAS within the Army, and it's available for instantaneous dissemination out to whoever needs it on a base or a post. So that's basically the overview of our system. We're an information integration dissemination display system. For example, the active shooter device. I've been in discussions with these gentlemen for a few months, or a month now, I guess, since I met them out at AFWERX, where their system can and does plug into the actual alarm systems. It sends out tones. It can send out, I believe you said, emails or text messages, or am I correct? I don't want to say it wrong.
We can drive whatever node.
Nope. So one of the things that they had mentioned is that 3-year process to get onto the Air Force evaluated product list, and they're right, it's a long process. We've been down that path, we've done that. So a thought process and where AFWERX really excited us, is that collaboration. How can our company and their company work to better you, the customer that is out there? Take that signal of that active shooter that they've got, we ingest it into our approved system that's already on the LAN. Now it's just a piece of data that's entering one of our nodes, and then we can alert everywhere on base with visual. The cameras can come up. You can see down the hallways that's already being fed into it. Any information that you need to know is instantaneous with just the trigger, unfortunately, of a gunshot, perhaps. So moving into this, you run down the list. These are all the different elements that come into our system. Our system is based on every organization on a base would have many workstations. And the beauty of it is people, you've brought products here. Our product is a thumb drive, basically. Because we're certified to be on the Air Force land, you can use your existing infrastructure. You plug it into your existing desktop. We're certified to be there, interconnected throughout the entire base, and you start pulling the data that is up in air traffic already, that the pilots are using, the airfield is using, etc. You can have equipment status, you can have personnel status, you can have information that the BDOC needs, you can have anything you can think of comes into this. And this is the favorite part of my briefing because I turn it over to Joe at this time. We're going to go through a lot of screen captures, and I will premise it with this, is that we love for you guys to ask questions, and feel free, you don't have to wait until the end. If you see something up here on these screen captures, please stop us, and either Joe or I can explain that to you. Joe, all yours.
Okay, as Darren mentioned, we are a program of record in the Army and in the Air Force under a special security plan in the Air Force and an authorization to operate. Army similar. Now, because of the interest that was shown in both the Air Force and the Army is a little different. They've already started expanding into this C2 concept and putting workstations within their security forces, their fire department. Air Force is a little different. It's a closed-off program with a program management that hasn't allowed the expansion outside the boundaries of their accreditation. So what we did is we got sponsored by Wright-Patterson and got the software certified on the evaluated product list. So now we're authorized, like Darren mentioned, to reside on a standard desktop configuration. It's a simple software application that resides on the desktop, and it has an exemption to use port 1000 to establish communication between network or between the workstations across the network. Here's an example of basically the network possibility, is that the IDS-C2, once it's in place, has the ability to communicate with the AFAS, the AAAS, any of the FAA programs as well. So there are instances where we have Army locations communicating with Air Force locations through the system. Which, as you can imagine, creates a lot of efficiencies and the elimination of a lot of extra phone calls. Okay, as Darren mentioned, as we go through these screen captures, feel free to jump out and ask questions, but I want to caveat that is that right now basically our legacy and where we're heavily involved is in air traffic. So a lot of these screen captures are air traffic focused or airfield focused information. But these are just examples. This software is not something that's a cookie cutter, that it's always the same. What happens is that we field the software. We train individuals at the location within the special, within the operations, whether it's security forces, command post, BDOC, and they can build out the pages and display the data any way they want. They can create this, is that if you see something up here and say, okay, I don't want to see that there, I'd rather see weather display. In a matter of moments, the trained individual can modify that and change how the data is presented. But the data is all in the system. It's a distributed database, which is important, is that each workstation, when it's updated, has all the data. So if you do lose connectivity, you don't lose the information. The reference data, the most current data, is still stored at every workstation. Okay, so here's some just examples of how you can display data. You can integrate weather data, you can integrate, basically let me start off is that the data formats are, you either have reference data, you can have static data, your references, you can have user inputted data, you can have source data from interfaces, from like live weather sensors, or what any of the other companies that are here, we would have the ability to interface with them, with their, working with them to bring the system in to give you one single dashboard, one-stop shopping with all of the information that you need at the touch of a button. Graphical data. This is big with the Army, their range range statuses, because range statuses in the Army, they have shooting, shooting points, restricted areas and stuff, and it is very difficult to keep track of that information. So now through the system, they're able to graphically represent it and actually gain approval from the using agency. Okay, here's another one that we had created. Now granted, we're not security forces expert. I think we made that clear. We're traffic controllers. But working with some of the security forces at locations and also talking to people at the Fusion event, there are some things that their security forces is interested in. The status of their vehicles, where their vehicles are. Through the system, you can track where your vehicles are. You can set up a profile for each vehicle. They can alert where they're at, what they're responding to, so you can maintain real-time status of them. And you can integrate, like Darren mentioned, integrate your gate cameras or any other information. And what I would encourage, while this presentation doesn't reflect all the examples, we actually built out a more robust demo that I encourage you tomorrow to come by and see, and it shows some of the other alerting features that you can do. Okay, inter-system alerting, like I mentioned. You can set up the system that any agency can notify of some type of event. So in this example, we have an aircraft incident. So the tower inputs an aircraft incident, and then across the system, it'll alert everybody on the network that you want to alert that there's an incident in progress. And then it would require them to actually acknowledge it with their either initials, their name, rank. You set it up any way you want to configure it. But that gives you a date, time stamp, and a positive acknowledgement that somebody has received the information. Also, this information can be archived for up to 999 days. So in any kind of accident investigation, you can actually go to the exact time of the event, and it will show you exactly what that individual saw, what information was available at the time, who answered the information, who acknowledged it, and then whatever follow-on action they completed. As Darren mentioned, is that we have the ability to integrate with almost any system. As long as we have cooperation with the other vendor, we can work it out to where we integrate the information and even augment it if necessary with alerting or notifications or the positive acknowledgement. Here's an example. We have a partnership with Version 2. It's a RF drone detection company. So we're able to integrate that into the system. It's a sensor-based system set up around the installation. When it detects the RF signature of the drone, it will alert where the drone is. And this is actually the older version of the software. They've now modified the software. Will show you distance from the sensor to give you more accurate depiction of where the drone is. Okay, emergency management. We talked about a lot of companies were talking about different kind of emergency management aspects. We too have the ability to integrate some of the emergency management aspects. You can put all your checklists into it. Here's an example of a zone type system or zone parsing. So you can bring up a zone. So then in your emergency responders, with each one of those buildings in that zone, you can augment that with any kind of data you want, whether or not it's recall rosters, emergency contacts, building schematics, your fire alarm location, whatever that individual needs on site, that information can be integrated into the system and already available. Also, you can set up alerting for those buildings as well. So in this case, an active shooter, you can actually notify. It'll attach the checklist, complete the checklist, again, date, time, stamp of who completed it. And then if there are predetermined cordons or restrictions based on that by whatever AFI policy, that can already be pre-set and graphically represented. And then you could augment it with whoever your emergency responders are and show who is where at what time. Things like weather data. You can bring in the live weather data from the field. You can augment it with URL web-based weather or places like windy.com. Pretty much any kind of information that you want to integrate into the system can be integrated. Publications. Everyone has publications, publication libraries. This eliminates the need to have that. It's all at the touch of a button. It's loaded in, your flips, any kind of advisory circular, publication, AFI, whatever you need, reference data. You could do this with a base grid, a crash grid map. All of the information that you need to have can be, loaded into it, and there and available. Good thing was the publications is that the system also has what's called a file import service. So you basically dump all your publications into a folder. The system goes out, pulls them in, indexes it, and puts it where it's supposed to be. Other reference data. But this can be done for, security forces, fire department. A lot of times with aircraft, you need to know the characteristics of the aircraft as far as what they're carrying, armament, and things like that. That can all be, assessed in there as well. Checklist. Okay, again, these are this one's an air traffic checklist, but I just want to show it to you as an example. But any checklist that you have can be built into the system, so the individual completes the checklist on the system, and then, again, you get a date, time stamp of the individual when they completed it, and it's archived for 999 days. So you don't have to worry about the paper trail, printing it out, or anything. It's in the system already. Here's a more complex checklist. This is a mock checklist from a location, and it was for, I believe this is severe weather. This was estimated for during a weather event that it takes the individual in the mock about 30 to 40 minutes to execute all of these phone calls. Now it's done instantaneously. One alert, you put in the information, notify agencies, everybody gets notified at once, and then you start seeing, as they acknowledge it, you'll get the date, time stamp of who has acknowledged it from each location. Asset tracking. And again, this is going to be aircraft, but this can be applied, and you'll see in the demo, this can be applied to vehicles. One of our civilian customers uses it for their fire department. So they have all of their vehicles, where they are, if they're in service, where, if they're out of service, if there's a problem with it, what crew members are assigned to it, what fluids they're currently carrying, and it's all tracked in the system. So any point they can look, and with the civilian, it's an ARF index, so they know that they have the right equipment and the right materials to support their mission. But you can show the parking plan, where the aircraft park. You can augment it with whatever information. Here is just a tail number, but the location that we've been working with recently, what they're going to do is that they have an issue when people are stepping to the jet. They know what jet they are, but they don't know exactly what parking spots it's in. So they're able to track, what crew is assigned to what aircraft, also what the aircraft is loaded with, what armament's on that aircraft. And again, it just, then you can just hover over it just to see the information. Okay, graphical airport status. Okay, again, this is a capability. This is just what in air traffic is something that's used predominantly, but you can show, runway closed, multiple runway closed, or any place on the airfield closed. Now, the reason I talk about this as a capability, this can be done to the installation as well. If you had road closures because of an event, gate closure, all of this can be done graphically. You take a GIS layer, you put it in the system, then it can be augmented with all of these details to show the current status. And again, it can be set up with notifications to alert people, to eliminate having to make multiple phone calls saying, okay, Arnold Gates closed from this time to this time. It can all be done in there with the notification and notes as well. Airspace graphical display, pretty much anything you can think of. If you have a GIS layer, map, anything you want to graphically display, it can be done. You can bring it in and then augment almost anything. Here's actually a land use gate at Pittsburgh. What they have is they have fracking and hunting that's permitted on the airport property. So what they were going through is that they were dealing with 20, 30 phone calls a day, finding out which hunting areas are open, which ones are closed for fracking. So they created this. This sits at the airport resource advisor, or I'm sorry, the resource advising office. And people just go in there and visually look what's available and what's going on the airfield. And again, here's another picture of just a graphical display of airspace. They actually use this to coordinate airspace activity. This location had a problem where during crew relief that they wouldn't be passing the accurate airspace activity, but this eliminated that. So they actually coordinate, request the airspace, and then approve the airspace through the system, and then they have positive acknowledgement that it's been done. And I want to show you this for basically for your BDOC, your command posts and stuff. What you're looking at is you have one small screen where the controller is sitting, but that's generating two others. So you're not dependent on a workstation for every iteration of IDS-5. One workstation can generate multiple instances. So if you want to have in your command center multiple large displays, one with the the airfield, one with the the installation status, it can all be generated through one or from one workstation. Integrated enhanced video, like I said, we can pull in video feeds from anywhere you have, and then they can be augmented with alerting as well. Is that you can take a video feed, and if there's an issue at it, you could set up a trigger that where it will send out an alarm across the network that there's an issue at a particular gate or wherever the camera is. Port generation. Besides the fact that the system can archive for 990 days or 999 days, it can also generate a report. Anything that's in the system after a checklist is complete, whatever you need to do for emergency action, it can generate either a textual report or it has a capability of generating an email notification. And that also goes for regular alerting as well. If you have an aircraft incident and you wanted to generate a notification to leadership via, whatever, their email to let them know that there's been an incident, it can do that. And that's an example of it. All right, Darren?
So give you a couple of examples of system in use today. Joe mentioned Pittsburgh Airport. They've actually got a mesh network out there, full Wi-Fi everywhere on the airport. So they've got hard fixed workstations that sit into their airport operations center that is collecting data and receiving data from air traffic. They've got systems in their vehicles that are on a laptop. They've got systems in their ARF, which is the firefighters. And they've got security. Their 911 sheriff's department, they have them. And what this does is it ties everything together. Back in, and this dates me a little bit, I think it was called Battle Staff, and you guys changed the name to Crisis Action Team, CAT. You've got all these different agencies coming together during a crisis. If everybody has their laptop with them, the leadership that comes in there, and this system is in every organization, all that reporting becomes instantaneous. As they click onto information, it's just showing up there at the CAT now at this time. And I know there's a lot of call-ins, there's a lot of elements going on. We fielded the system at I don't know if anybody's been to a combat readiness training center. There's 4 of them, I believe, in the Guard. We fielded a system out to security forces up to one of the northern ones years ago. And the commander there, he wanted to have the daily blotter. So he had a system sitting there, and he's seen the daily blotter. They're running that through the system. They proved through one of their exercises that they could close down the gate quicker with our system than they could make a radio call. Because all they had to do was press a button, and immediately this showed up at the gate entries. I think they had 2 of them up there. A tone went off, shut the gate down. I think one of the exercises they were doing is the BX was being robbed. At least that's what they did back in my day. They would always pretend that. It could be a system that's in your vehicle. It could be the law enforcement desk, whatever it is. They press a button, and everybody's notified that has these systems. Joe talked about one of the examples was the active shooter. So my thought is, connected with this company over there, when that gets triggered, these pages are made to immediately go to something that is extremely important. You don't have to click on it. It just takes you there because it knows you need to see that. The system was used for, you call it mount before you come in for your briefings, correct, in security forces? Guard mount, sorry. Have a big display up there. Have it cycling through. We have profile briefings, basically, that it's live data that's being fed in on what the situation is on your base that day. Where are you going? Deploy your people that way. The facility up north was using that to pre-brief some of them. Firemen were using it. Air traffic uses it extensively to do their briefings. As situations change, you've got a 15, 20-minute briefing, things are changing. If you've got this in the background, it's all live data being fed in. So our summary is, please spend some time with us tomorrow. I believe we've got a half hour with people. We're going to go through touch and feel. This is a system that I can put in today. We are approved to be on the network. It is ready to go. Now it's just a matter of talking and working with which elements needed. I can't mention where, but we're in contracting right now with a major deployment, which we'll be able to hopefully announce here within the next month or so, in an Air Force location that is going to go base-wide, basically. So it's just a matter of a license being installed on a workstation, and those are intercommunicating. So COTS hardware, this is the beauty of it. I'm not going to come in and tell you, you got to buy my hardware, you got to buy my it's all there. You guys own all this stuff already. So it's just a matter of the software. Joe talked about training. We give you the tools to the Cadillac, basically. You get to drive it. You don't have to ever talk to us again if you don't want to. Typically, there is a support plan that's in place because people go through a very extensive training, 7 days, that we do on site, and you're going to forget some things. Maybe back over here we talked about this, but now this just happened. Unlimited calls to us, and you give us a call and my folks will walk you through everything. So at this point, I believe we turn it over to questions if you guys have anything. Yes, sir.
You mentioned licensing. Is it user per user or per device?
It's per user, and well, when you say per device, that would be in my terminology would be the same thing. So where Joe was showing where he had multiple displays there, we would consider that one user, and it would be feeding from that one machine. So it would be just one license. And there's multiple business ways we do this. It can be buy one license, or just an enterprise for your entire network.
Or reason I ask is like in a BDOT situation, that same guy's not always there. So the next guy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's for that piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, normally in a BDOC or command post, what they end up doing is they have 1 or 2 workstations sitting at the desk, and whoever's logged on to it has the, that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is it capable of being on a device or cell phone? So same thing that's happening.
It's as capable as your network will allow it to be, and that's been one of the sticky points, I guess, is the LAN security. I mentioned Pittsburgh, a mesh network. I can put it anywhere. We are a Windows-based product, so a lot of people ask, can I put it on my iPad? Can I put it on my Apple device? There is ways to do it, but it is going to be running Windows to some degree. Joe, do you want to any more on that?
No, that pretty much covers it. Yeah, if you don't have, we've tested it using, basically VPNing into a fixed workstation. There are locations that do it that way. But as long as you have either a mesh network, 4G capability, and your network authority allows to connect to it, because it does have to connect back to the network to, get the information. So as long as the COM allows it, then yes.
Now, I want to go a little bit further on for fire department in aircraft crashes. There's multiple people that are coming out there. So the on-scene commander for that fire department can have one in the back of their, we'll say, Expedition or their Explorer. They might not have a mesh network out there or 4G connection, but they can still use this system while they're out there. Now, they can't communicate live, but they've got all that stuff that they used to carry in the back of their pickup, all the diagrams, all this stuff. They've still got it on their computer. They can run through and put in their incident information. When they come back into the facility, it automatically does a demand synchronization, and it'll start feeding the information back into basically the nodes and keep everything updated. That awkward silence. And so thank you all. Once again, we'll be here tomorrow. We've got live demos. These are real systems. So please come in, touch, feel, and I'll sit and watch Joe give you guys demonstrations. Thank you.